Hi there, and I'm with Olly Nicholls here for your starting point. So, hi Olly, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. Thank you very much for having me here today. Really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. So, Olly, you are the CEO of Attraction World Group, and I know from the website that you've got over sort of what 5 million customers, 10 millions, or tens of millions of tickets sold, and all this kind of stuff. So, what is it that Attraction World Group do?
So, Attraction World Group, we kind of sit in between a brand like Disney, Universal Studios, Merlin Group. So these great kind of attractions and experiences and theme parks. And then really, Daniel, we either sell them directly to our consumers, so through our online websites and portals. We also sell them to airlines, people like Virgin Atlantic, Delta Airlines, but then also travel agents like Hayes Travel, Barhead Travel, and many other different OTAs around the world. So we act as a central piece between this great experience products, the technology, and then pushing it through to the consumer. We work worldwide. So we contract over 20,000 different experiences around the world. We have 6 in-house brands. So we're very, very much an omni-channel distribution partner to all these experience partners.
Wow. And as CEO, let's get this right, Chief Executive Officer. Yeah.
Entertainment officer, chief
Entertainment, is that
officer.
right? So what,
I wish it was.
so what does that mean? What's that sort of role encompass then?
Oversight of the business. So the kind of book stops at me. Can be lonely at times. You have to make tough decisions on both the business and your people and the direction in which we want to go. My role, I'm a very different type of CEO. Traditionally a CEO is very operationally focused, financially focused. Luckily, I've got a great team around me. So I'm able to focus more on the vision, where we want to take the business, the commercial aspects of the business, and using my kind of 25 years worth of experience across different parts of travel to build a brand and to build a culture that allows the company to not just operate today, but also thrive in the future as well. So I'm really lucky. I've got a great team of around 40 people based in Birmingham, another 5 who are based over in Amsterdam, a team in Goa, a guy in Australia who sits there on his own, and we're always on very different time zones. I think he's got the best job in the world. And then we're also recruiting in North America at the moment as well. So we've gone from being very much a HQ focused business out of Birmingham prior to COVID to kind of team members everywhere. And that's been one of the great things that came out of COVID was remote working and being able to get talent from around the world.
Yeah, I can imagine that's probably the only good thing that came out of the pandemic for the travel industry. But
Yeah, the only one.
yes, but so well done for getting through that. That's it. That's pretty impressive. So, could we get a bit of a kind of chronology? How did you get to where you are today? So, little Olly, I don't know how little you were at the age of 18, 19, 21, or what
Yeah.
have you. Take us back to how did you get started in this industry?
So I had a stammer all the way through school. So did a lot of speech therapy in my early years. Went on stage when I was around 6 or 7 to try and defeat the fear of speaking. Um, and then I didn't do well at school. I got 1 GCSE. Parents went mental. I found it very hard to express myself and take in information and process it properly. The plan, I guess, was to go and join my dad in my dad's company. He ran a manufacturing business in Birmingham. The plan was always to go and work for him. I joined him when I was 18. I lasted a week and decided I wanted to be my own man. And I joined Pizza Hut as a restaurant manager. Still probably the greatest job I ever did. Loved it. I had lots of fun traveling up and down the southwest of the UK because I used to run multiple restaurants for them. Um, and then I applied to go and work for Walt Disney World in Orlando. This is going back kind of millennium time. So when we all thought the clock would stop and all of our computers and TVs would explode, and then it didn't happen. And I applied to go and work for Disney and got accepted as an intern. Unfortunately, 9/11 then happened. All of the work permits were revoked. There was a kind of ban on bringing in foreign workers, I guess, to Orlando at the time. So I applied to become a rep for a company called Thompson's at the time. Later turned into what we know today as TUI. Um, Told my parents I'll be away for 6 months. In my mind, it was all very much Ibiza Uncovered, which was a big TV program back then. Thinking I've got this plan to kind of go and have a summer in the sun. And I actually ended up in a island called Menorca, which is known for families rather than young single women. Um, and I ended up staying with overseas with TUI for 9 years. As a rep, again, it was about facing my biggest fear, which was my stammer, kind of getting up on stage every day with the anxiety, both the night before, knowing it was coming the next day, and then going on stage and kind of having to get my words out to present, to put myself across to the people in front of me properly. Um, and it was the biggest learning of my life because it was never something that actually I ever wanted to do with my career. To be 100% honest with you, what I do now is kind of I'm still searching for what is it I want to do in my career, and I'm kind of 44 now, and I still don't know what that dream job looks like. Um, but I was surrounded by great people overseas. I was able to reinvent myself. That really helps with the stammer because nobody knows you. You're very much a blank canvas when you move overseas, and it allowed me to kind of go out of my comfort zone, engage with the people I was presenting to, my customers at welcome meetings, and really defeat that fear, and then be able to sharpen my skill on communication. I still struggle today. Someone phones me, I'm scared to pick up the phone and say my own name because I stammer. It's my trigger. But then I'll
Your
stand it.
own name is the trigger.
Yeah, my own name's the trigger, or going into a shop and asking for a Mars bar and walking out with M&Ms because I've not been able to say the word Mars when I've been trying to order it. So, um, I made a career choice that at the time was short term. Um, that career choice that I made when I was 21 has led me to where I am today because even though I'm now sat in a boardroom rather than, a rep's desk in a hotel, I'm still selling amazing experiences. I found my passion through going along and finding that 6 month role. And, I fell in love with how do I change kind of the experience that a customer gets when they're on holiday, and how can I amplify that experience? So, yeah, I kind of do the same thing as what I did when I was 21. No one's really noticed that. I've been able to just carry on doing it and get to where I am today.
I mean, there's so much there to unpack. I mean, right from the early age, you were obviously aware of a stammer,
Yeah.
and was it your decision to go on stage at 6 or 7? Was that a parents' thing? Was that a sort of a therapist's idea,
Yeah,
or
no, it was a weird one. I was kind of, I was aware kind of from the age of 3. Um, I was never the same as anyone at school. My speech was very slow. Um, I always remember the teacher. They used to hand round a book, and each kid would say like a paragraph from the book, and I'd be physically shaking by the time it got to me, and the teacher would still make me stand up in front of the class. And teachers told me to spit it out when I was trying to talk. One teacher threw a book
no?
at me once. And for anyone watching, schools were very different in the 80s compared to what they are today. But I think for me, it was, I'd go to speech therapy, and part of that therapy was standing up in the group of others and trying to read from a piece of paper. And I kind of look back now, it was actually quite evil, the therapy they gave us, because it just it inflamed the anxiety further. Um, However, one of my mom's friends, their kids were going to kind of stage school, and she just said, I think this would be brilliant for Ollie. He's got this vibrant personality once he's relaxed with people.
Yeah.
I think putting him up there, he's going to really thrive. Um, and to start off with, I was always the guy at the back of the chorus, or the one kind of just running around on stage. And then suddenly I was pushed towards the front, and being able to learn my words before speaking them really helped with my brain on kind of how I was processing the information, because it was scripted. I was able to really delve into the script and really understand it to then be able to go and perform it, because it helped me create a second persona of myself. I wasn't just Ollie, I was this other character, and being that character allowed me to present. And when I moved overseas, and like I said before, I was this blank canvas. I could create this character that nobody knew. Everyone that walked through the door, they didn't know if I got my lines right or wrong, but I was a character.
Right.
Uh,
That's interesting because sometimes in my head, I mean, I remember that. I mean, I didn't have a stammer, but I remember feeling nervous about reading up in front of class. I was just incredibly shy when I was younger. Even when I'm sort of doing business networking, I have to sort of present and that kind of thing. It just builds up, and you think too much about it. And yeah, the idea of being better at presenting if it's strangers rather than the people that you know. I suppose that does work in some instances, but the idea of just going up into some strangers, you think that'd be a lot more
yeah.
sort of
No, very
vigorous.
much the
But,
opposite for me.
right. Okay. And so and it's interesting because like myself, your dad had a business, and the idea was going to go into that business and that kind of thing. I suppose, does that sometimes, because you said you only got the one GCC and what have you, there could have been lots of reasons for that, but in back of your mind, because your dad had that business, you thought you could have kind of sat back and sort of gone into that business. Do you think that meant you had a lack of motivational drive, or is it not
You
related?
never met my dad. So when I was 16, we had to do work experience. And I think at the time I said I'd wanted to be a police officer. I was 15, I'll become a bobby on the beach. And they got the work placements come out, and it was a security guard officer uh, watching CCTV footage all day. And I went home to mum and dad and said, here's my work placements. And my dad said, there's no way in the world you're doing that. That's got nothing to do with joining the police. You're not going to sit looking at a video screen all day. So he said, you're coming to work with me, son. Okay, brilliant. So the Monday morning, I'm getting ready for work. My dad walks in my room, you're late. So what do you mean I'm late? I'm coming in with you. He's like, no, you're not. You're going to get the bus to Birmingham. Now, bearing in mind, this is like 25 miles away. Never done the journey before on my own. And it was 3 bus changes. So it would have took me about 2 hours to get there. And that's what he always instilled in me, was nothing was ever handed to my dad on his plate. And from a very early age, I'd go to work with my dad every Saturday morning, would then go and watch Birmingham in the afternoon, the famous Blues, at a football game. But even at the ages of like 10 or 11, I'd go into work with him on a Saturday. I'd be making teas for everyone on the factory floor, getting 10p off each person for making them a cuppa. And even when I did work experience with him, that I think my teachers thought, oh, he's going to be sat in the office playing games all day. My dad had me sweeping, a 100 by 100 foot factory floor covered in asbestos at the time, and God knows what, and sweeping that all day. He was very much of the opinion and this, that if you're going to make it in life, you stand on your own. You know, you've got people who can help you along the way, but if you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, you won't make it. Um, and I'd worked for him over many summers after that for, you know, a bit of cash to go out the weekends. And I've never worked so hard in my life. You know, he had people in the factory who would work for him for 20 years saying, Barry, don't be so hard on the kid. But he was like, no, if I'm going to ask you to do something, I'm going to ask my son to do it as well, because there's no easy gravy train in life. Um, you know, and I remember when I first told him I was going overseas and the look of disappointment from him, really, because he was like, well, you're going to be a rep, you're throwing your life away. And it wasn't until he came and saw me on stage presenting that he got it. And that night I actually got him up on stage as well and kind of humiliated him a little bit in front of all the customers. But he was always like, work hard, focus, don't expect anybody to give you anything, because life, that doesn't happen. And I guess nowadays you see, and I'm not going to name particular names of people, but you see celebrity influencers in the business world who make out that this stuff's easy, and it's just not. You know, you can't go to an employer and say, I want to work at home, I want this, I want this, and if you don't give it me, you're not cool. You know, work is hard, and I'm I don't believe in luck in life. The one thing I was lucky with was going overseas and finding an industry that I genuinely love, and has given me so much back. Because when you find something that you love, you're not at work.
Mhm.
Um, it becomes part of your life, and it's really important to maintain a work-life balance. But if you're doing something you enjoy, um, that's the golden egg. It really, really is. You know, and today there's a lot more variety of roles out there. The world's changed. To back in my day, it was manufacturing. You know, that's where the growth was, and that's where you were kind of funneled into. Whereas now, um, the world is a bigger place.
Mhm.
You can easily commute globally around the world now. So, my advice is always just find something that you love.
Yeah.
Don't chase the paycheck. The paycheck at the age of 18 will make you unhappy if you chase that paycheck at that time and continue that throughout your life. I was getting paid £300 a month as a rep overseas. It was the worst paid job I could have possibly have got, but
Yeah.
it gave me the best outcome in life and it gave me the most experiences.
Yeah, well, you were looking for the experience, weren't you? And I suppose if you're coming out of school with one GCC, I suppose you couldn't necessarily just walk into any job or career that you wanted. So, and it's interesting you went into kind of hospitality or kind of restaurant
Yeah.
with Pizza Hut. You know, I worked for several years, 5 years in hospitality, and I always think that's a great place to learn a lot, dealing with communicating with people, dealing under pressure, and all the rest of it. So when why did you was that kind of one of the only jobs that you thought you could get with the qualifications you had, or why did you go into the Pizza Express first and then moving on? Was it just a sort of you thought that would be a good place to where you could thrive, or
No, so I joined Pizza Hut when I was, I think, just my 16th birthday. You couldn't serve alcohol until you were 16 back then. And I wanted money. My dad was very successful, but I always had this thing in my mind, oh, I want to earn my own money. I don't want to take. Um, so I saw an advert in the local newspaper. I thought I can be a waiter. I can't really say a lot, but if I can learn the lines, I can be a waiter. Um, it was great. I was making 50 to £100 in tips on a weekend on top of my salary. It was great money for a 16-year-old. I was going out buying Yves Saint Laurent jumpers and mishmash jeans and Rockport trainers. Um,
what more do you need?
what more do you need? I bought a Fiesta XR2i when I turned 18 with my tip tip money.
No.
Um, I had a great community of people around me, and I think that's what I found in travel. That was the crossover. You know, when I was 18, you'd have hospitality, tourism would be separate. Everything kind of falls under entertainment now. And I can understand why, because the values and the beliefs are the same. And, you know, I was really lucky. I worked for a guy called Mark White at Pizza Hut who believed in me, saw past my stammer. Um, then, you know, turned 19, he was then having me open restaurants in Hereford and Gloucestershire, and kind of really put me at the pinnacle and gone, you know, to the execs at Pizza Hut, this kid's got something, use it. You know, from a cultural aspect with my team members, from a passion and a visionary perspective. Um, you know, and I owe a lot to certain individuals throughout my career who have believed in me, that have kind of taken this raw kind of young guy, who was a bit crazy at times, had a lot of energy, all this energy that I'd kind of built up through years of not talking, um, to be able to channel that in the right direction was, you know, I owe some of these people my life,
What,
on
what,
the chances they gave me.
so to me, that sounds like right. You can make a really good career in sort of that world.
Yeah. No, I
At,
could have, yeah.
at a young
Yeah.
age, you decided to actually no, I want to sort of change in career. So I want to go into kind of travel or
Yeah.
entertainment and go for an internship at Walt Disney and what have you. So what was it that drove you to doing that?
Um, I think early 2000s, a lot of we didn't have, I think the same age as me, Dan, or
Pretty much
roughly.
spot on, I think. Yeah,
Um, we
not
didn't
thinking
have,
with my lack of hair, but yeah,
well, I had a hair transplant, so I'll let you off that one.
great to
That's a
speak.
story for another call. Um, we never had reality TV. Okay, we had four TV channels, and then Channel 5 came out. We had five TV channels. That was the norm. And travel had always been a major part on prime time TV ever since I was a kid. So wish you were here was on every single kind of Tuesday and Thursday night for 20 years. And as a family, where we were really lucky was we used to travel a lot. Not far away, but you know, Spain, Italy, France. Um, and I'd always loved the food, the culture, the difference, the suntan. Um, and I think for me, there's, you know, whilst our family don't have gypsy blood, there's always been that bit of gypsy blood in me. On I like to travel. I'm very independent. I was never, you know, as soon as I turned 18, I wanted to leave home and have my own journey. Um, and my parents always kind of supported me with that. You know, I was 19, I got a house in Hereford. I lived in Redditch before that. Um, so kind of moved away by 40 miles and was just like, I've got my own house now and I do this. And then suddenly I wanted to go to Cardiff, and it was always just within me. And you know, the Disney thing was what I always dreamed about. That was my kind of goal. Would you go and work for what is one of the biggest corporations in the world? And I'd applied to be a cocktail waiter. And I guess that came from watching Tom Cruise in Cocktail at some point back in the mid 90s. I thought that's what I want to do. Um, and it all kind of then, you know, I'm a big believer that all these things happen for a reason. You connect the dots because, you know, I remember walking into Disney's offices in 2021, when I joined Attraction World as the chief commercial officer, and I was like, wow, I'm here now. I was supposed to have done this nearly 20 years ago. Now, you know, it didn't happen instantaneously. I wanted to work with Disney. I didn't know how I would do it, but pretty much 20 years to the day, I'm now walking into their EMEA HQ as one of their biggest partners in the UK. And throughout my career, there was never that thing in my head saying, oh, I've got to get back to Disney. I've got to get back to Disney. But I strongly believe in life that these roads will connect you, and you've got all these little dots. And Steve Jobs talks a lot about connecting the dots. And it's very hard to connect the dots looking forward. It's incredibly easy looking back and
Mm.
connecting those dots together in hindsight. Um, and what that's really taught me is kind of success isn't a straight line. You will fail, you will fall, you will be defeated. You just have to make sure you get up more than the times you fall down.
Hmm.
Um, and that's all you can rely on in life, because nobody's going to go, here's something for nothing. Everything costs you, whether it is time with your family, time with your friends, personal sacrifice that you have to make along the way. Um, but I truly believe you end up where you're meant to end up, that there's a journey there. And
Hmm.
as long as you work hard, play hard, and be kind to those people that you meet along the way. And I think that's the most important thing for me, was because of my stammer, I was incredibly empathetic to people. And actually, some of those people that I've helped up the career ladder along the way have then come back and helped me in the future, where their roles have surpassed mine. And they've gone, Ollie, we remember what you did for us, because they had the degree. I didn't have the degree. I had to kind of do the zigzag to get where I was, where they had more of a straight line, but they never forgot what I did to help them.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that's how I got there.
Yeah. And so you got into, I mean, you were working for TUI, you being a
Yeah.
rep, but what made you keep going and pushing yourself to become the CEO of Attraction World Group? Um, because a lot of people will maybe be supervisor, manager, this, that, the other, but you've really kept going. And do you still feel in the role that you've got now, you still got the same kind of joy, and you're able to still be yourself? Looking back to when you were 21, you're still
Yeah.
effectively doing the kind of similar thing now, or what?
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think made you so successful, and why did you keep on pushing yourself?
I think the determining factor was back in 2011. I joined a brand called City Sightseeing Worldwide. And I got to work with a guy called Enrique Ybarra, who was the founder. And over a kind of 9-year period, myself, Enrique, and the team took that from what was a UK SME, so a small, medium-sized business of around 40 tours worldwide. We grew it to 120 locations worldwide. 15 million people traveled with us each year. We were the first $1 billion experiences company from a kind of tour operator perspective. Um, but I learned so many lessons off Enrique. He became my best friend. I was his right hand. He was this kind of this Spanish guy from Seville. But we paired up really well together. And he taught me so many lessons, and it was more so about being present in the day to day rather than just dreaming about the future, because you can dream about where you want to get to, but if you're not present in the day to day, you'll never get to that future dream. And you know when I left City Sightseeing back in 2019, I remember phoning him, and I was in tears. It was heartbreaking for me to leave the company. I was his number two. I was right at the top of the food chain, but I'd had the experience of building this brand with a mentor above me and kind of at my side. And then I had an opportunity with Attraction World that was, a business that had been around for about 15 years, had kind of had its successes in the past, gone quite stale, to kind of go and join them and breathe this new life and energy into the business, rebrand it and help it scale. And that's what kind of kept my enjoyment going, because for me, it's always about the next challenge. How do you take something? And I guess it's what people have done with, the psychology of this is the underdog. And, you know, people took their chance on me. I was the underdog. I like things I can fix. you know, the way I fix myself to go, do you know what? This may not be the prettiest or the best right now, but I can inject that and I can put that on the shelf and I can make it grow.
Make a
Uh,
difference.
yeah, make a difference. And at Traction Wall Group, I've been able to stand on my own 2 feet, not have that person who's there to, give me the support, give me the ideas. It kind of, the book stops with me now, but I'm then able to support the new leaders of the future. And, we've implemented so many great things within Attraction World, both from a kids board of directors. So during the kind of summer holidays or half term, everyone's kids come in the office and I have a board meeting with all of them to find out, okay, what's your parents' work-life balance like? How's mom and dad when they're coming home from work or on a Sunday night before they're going into the office the next day? How are they feeling? So I can help shape that as well. We do a lot now around internship programs. We moved the company from a Glassdoor rating of 3.6 to 4.8 consecutively now for the last 3 years. We've built a culture where, people can come in and be their true selves and kind of really put the input in and thrive. So that's what keeps me going. It's not about selling a ticket anymore. It's about how do I create this culture where people feel safe, where, there's no bullies, there's no one to laugh, there's no one to snigger towards you, but everyone gets given an opportunity. And as much as people put in, they get out, and it very much is like that. And, you know, for me now, it's the next stage of that. How do we globalize that? How do we incorporate new offices around the world to keep the same feeling on what's on HQ into those offices? How do we create a great grassroots program? We do a lot with Birmingham Uni, University Central Birmingham, Aston University to really help build talent and bring them in and give us learning as well, because you know the student of today have a very different challenge when you look at AI, when you look at all the new tech advancements. It's really exciting, but actually the opportunities are shrinking because of what AI will do within the workplace. But the excitement comes from actually you get to control where that AI goes and how it gets developed and all this other stuff. And it's kind of, we love working with students coming in, telling us about AI, because, I'm a middle-aged man. I'm not a Gen Z, or I have no idea. So we work with Gen Zers, we work with students on actually what do you want in the future? Because it's not about us dictating it. It's about you helping us learn as well.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great place to work. And yeah, so you've got to try and keep this one guy in Australia happy and make sure he feels part of the team. So I suppose that's a
Yeah.
challenge when you're growing a business. Also, you mentioned the website Glassdoor. So for anybody that's looking for a career and all the rest of it, that's a place where you can actually check out businesses and sort of previous employees and current employees can actually rate the business in terms of kind
Yeah.
of employability and satisfaction working for that business and that kind of thing. So that's quite a useful website to go for if you're looking for going for interviews and applying for jobs.
No, it's brilliant. We also use it on people we partner with as well, because you hear too often the customer is at the center of your business. The customer's not at the center of your business. The employee is at the center of the business. If you're not engaging with that employee, you won't have a customer, because they will not feel the need to engage with the customer. So, before we do business with anyone, we're looking at that Glassdoor number, because that for us tells us whether our culture is aligned with the culture of the partner. Um, Anybody looking for jobs, look at Glassdoor. It's honest. You can find out so much of employee feedback on whether that is the right fit for you. For some people, it is. Some people like structure, order. Other people want to be free-minded. They want to use their talent. At Attraction Wall Group, we have a safe space. We have people who suffer with ADHD, myself being one of them, and we have a safe space within the office for people to be able to go to and just be away from it. And that's how companies can use Glassdoor now, and getting that feedback and implementing these tools within the office to make it a more kind of all-encompassing work environment.
Mm-hmm. So, last question before we move on to the quick fire round.
Yeah.
If you're going to chat to your younger self, is there any kind of advice? I mean, it sounds like, Ollie, you as a younger self, you seem to just give it a go, didn't you? You seem to try everything. But is there anything that you could look back and just tell a younger self with a bit of advice, or anything that would sort of give them a bit more confidence, you think?
Yeah, totally. I would have bought a load of web domains back in 1992. That's the advice I would have given myself. Just get all your dad's cash, web domains, and car registration plates. No, I think for me is none of it actually matters. So, and that's quite a statement to make. But until you accept that you can't take anything with you, and that you could walk out of your door tomorrow and get hit by a bus, nothing else matters. It's about being happy. It's about finding the grass, the the small wins in everything. Because you get so, I've worked my whole life. It's only now, really, the last 5 years that I've understood it. For 30 years before that, it was the end goal. Focus on the end goal. This is where I want to get to. The end goal never happens. I still don't have an end goal, and I'm sat here at 44 years old. You know, it's about the moment. It's about living. It's about seeing the wins on a daily basis, because that end goal is going to take you a shit ton of time to get to. But if you wake up every morning, you make your bed, you've done one thing straight away. Okay, you've succeeded in one thing. And if you have a really bad day, you can get home and get straight back into bed without having to make it first. And it's just about, enjoying the moment, enjoying the process, because you will make mistakes. I've made a shit ton of mistakes in my life. I've been lucky that I've identified those mistakes pretty quickly and gone, I need to change my path. Especially working in Ibiza in the mid noughties, it wasn't a great place to be. But it's about living in that day by day mentality. And some of the most happy and most successful people I've met along the way just use that as a philosophy. Just focus on the today. What can you do today? Because tomorrow your focus is going to change again. And the most difficult thing in the world today, Daniel, is, when I was 16 years old, I'd pick up the Sun newspaper. David Beckham was still the man. He still is today, but he was in a vest and a sarong. That's all we had for celebrity. Today, you've got apps telling you, at 19 years old, you should be driving a Lamborghini. It's crazy. You can't live on what's on. None of that stuff on social media is real. It's fake, and it's kind of, that's not life. Life's the day to day, and it's about getting those small wins, whether you're on a council estate, whether you're in a semi-detached house, or whether you've just got your first flat with your friends. It's about every day, and it's about making those small wins, because that's what helps build you as a person. As you face challenges of life later on, you need all those small wins and those small losses as well along the way to be able to fight those bigger challenges as you grow older.
No, that's great advice. And as you say, these people, even if they did own the Lamborghini in the Instagram post, it doesn't mean they're happy, does it? And
No, it
honestly,
doesn't.
it's
No, it doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't. That's all.
and the successful people that do make a lot of money out of YouTube and what have you, they're few and far between. It's just like footballers, isn't it? I would all like to be a footballer. I
I
mean,
always wanted to be a footballer, but a footballer has a limited lifespan. I watched a great documentary about quite a famous footballer from the Midlands area, and it was like, well, yeah, he was getting a big salary of 20 grand a week at the top of it, but then he got injured for 3 years. He didn't get a single penny. It's all, again, it's small wins and big losses at times.
Risky business. And it's interesting about this, trying to find a balance between, because you always get sort of talked down upon. Oh, you're just living day by day.
Yeah.
And you've got no plan and no career. And I understand where having a sort of an idea of, having aspirations is a good thing, I believe. But as you say, with like if you're owning a business and what have you, you'll set targets, and then you always in your head you think, well, if we get to that, I'm all right.
Yeah.
You get to that and you realize, no, I'm not all
Not
right
a lot.
necessarily, because all my costs have gone up on this side. Then you get used to it and you want to keep on chasing it. And you're right, you have got to be in the present and sort of appreciate what you've done. I think it is a massive thing.
Yeah, it is aspirations, it's dreams, it's goals, and they're really important. I don't want to underestimate how important they are to drive you forward. Um, you know, the notorious BIG said, "Mo money, mo problem," and he was 100% right. The more money you have, the more money goes out your bank account. I can absolutely guarantee it. And you're never more happy when you're living in that part of excitement. Where can my life go? What can I achieve? How can I get there? And then celebrating the small successes, because people miss those small successes for the big success. If you only aim for the big success, you never know what a sense of achievement is. So you'll never get to the big success because you've ignored the small successes along
More
the way.
wins. Yeah.
Um, and I look back in my life and I look at times when I recognize what I'd done and that self of achievement, and that driven me on to the next piece. Oh, I never thought I could do that. I've actually done it now. But I passed that milestone without recognizing it was a milestone. And it's just really important because life goes quick. I still remember leaving school. I still remember, being able to smoke in a pub. I still remember making my own fake ID. And it seems like that literally moments ago that I was 20 years old and now I'm 44. It goes so quick. And you got to enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the journey. Yeah, certainly. And
Yeah.
you've moved us quite seamlessly into the quick fire round. Okay.
Okay.
So
Hit
the
me.
first question is your favorite career milestone.
My favorite career milestone was and it still makes me anxious actually. I just felt it in my chest. My first welcome meeting with TUI in Menorca. Good friend of mine, Rachel Stamp, ended up pushing me on stage because I was shaking, I was sweating. I felt a bit like Slim Shady on do you know when he did
On the film.
yeah. It felt like that. And I kind of got out there and I stammered so much I thought I was going to pass out in the first 5 minutes, hyperventilating through not getting enough oxygen to my lungs. And once I broke through it, it just reeled off my tongue. And after that, it never happened again. I just kept going and going. It became a drug. So that was the milestone for me. Stood
Game
up
changer.
in
Game
front of
changer.
these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And question two. So top productivity tool. So a busy man like you, there's only 24 hours in the day. What do you use? Do you think that sort of helps you? Is it like apps or is it like a podcast or anything that helps you get more?
Yes. I'm a tech nut. I only use Apple devices just because of the seamless integration. If I wasn't doing that, I'd have to use all Microsoft devices again. So everything's linked up. LinkedIn, 5 a.m. every morning. So I get up at 5, look at LinkedIn, see what's happening in the industry today before I even look at my email, because the industry is more important than me personally. Podcasts, I listen to an AI Start podcast every morning. He's an American guy. Love his accent, find him really funny, but also learning loads about AI in the meantime as well. To-do lists, mobile, everything's on my phone. I hardly write. Everything is mobile or tablet generated. So I've got to-do list function that kind of auto-populates my day, so I know exactly what's going on. ChatGPT, biggest time saver. Don't use it at school, kids. Need to be really careful with that. But I've learned a lot about prompts, about coding, about creativity and productivity within ChatGPT. I found out about something called hallucinations next week, where ChatGPT gives you a 3,000-page response, but it's all wrong. So you've got to be with it. Going for a walk at lunch, half an hour away from everything, just my own mind, my own thoughts.
Good mind, yeah.
That really helps. And I've got a young daughter who's two and a half, so I stop work at 5:30 every day. I never go over 5:30. I have my time with her, and then when she goes down, if I have to jump on something late at night, then I will do. But yeah, and I used to do really long emails. They're now short and sweet, and my team understand that. So I communicate to them, listen, you're not going to get a long response. You can ask me a question, I'll give you an answer.
Yeah, I've had to explain myself, and I'm not in
Yeah,
any way,
yeah.
in a mood or anything. It's just I'm just really quite brief on my emails.
It's really weird that how it's changed, because email was like a letter, and then you'd have your phone for a text message or SMS. And now and kind of the emails come more towards the SMS rather than the letter, because it's just not productive to be asking everybody how their day is.
Yeah,
And then everyone responds saying, oh, I had a great day.
yeah, yeah.
What are you going to do with
That's
the information?
loads of productivity tips there. I'm going to have to take you
Yeah.
through that. I think that you've actually answered 3 of these questions, I think. But the next one is, what would you suggest is most important, brains or determination? To your
Determination every day.
thoughts.
Every day.
Well, you've already answered this, but what did you first want to be when you grew up? It's
Work
a
for my dad, police officer.
police officer. That's what you said, yeah. I feel like I'm questioning you now. I think may have already answered this, unless you're both morning and evening. But are you a morning or evening person? And if you are a morning person, what time do you start? And if you're an evening person, what time do you finish?
It's a weird response for you. I'm an evening person, but I get forced into being a morning person. So
Right.
I um I prefer working in the evening. I feel I get more done, but my brain is too tired. But psychologically, I think that's where I best perform. Um, I'm actually better in the morning. I start at 5, so my alarm goes off at 5. I get downstairs, make a coffee for my wife, who's usually still snoring. Make myself a coffee, make my little girl a bottle of milk, and then I'm go, go, go. So I leave the house usually at 6 a.m. to get into central Birmingham for 7. Um, and then I'll be really high octane until probably about 1 o'clock, and then I just my energy starts to go. But as I said, usually 5:30 every day, boom, done, laptop off, family time. Because if you don't get that time, what's the point in doing all this other stuff?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so it's really important for me. But I just find at 5 a.m., it sounds really corny, but the birds are tweeting outside still. You can clear your inbox without anyone responding to you. It's
yeah,
quite
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Um, get in the car, and then you're like, well, I'm ready to go now, rather than having to
yeah,
catch up from the night before.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting ahead. I'm exactly the same sort of routine as yourself. I feel like I'm getting ahead and sort of like cheating by getting in at 5 o'clock, so I can get everything done and nobody's replying, and I can get through my inbox. So yeah, I feel that. Um, Best source of info for staying ahead. I think you might have answered this in your previous
LinkedIn.
question. LinkedIn, yeah.
If you're not on LinkedIn already, get yourselves on LinkedIn. Seriously, the amount of learning on there is just incredible.
Hmm. I suppose it's just also like social media. It's just try not to spend all day on it as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
go to second or the next question is go to stress relief technique. So we all get busy, and so that you're the best dad when you leave work and all the rest of it, and see your little one. I suppose she might be your stress relief actually. But
Yeah.
what would you suggest is your go-to stress relief technique?
Um, I've done a lot of, well, I've been through counselling because of COVID. It really messed with my head. Been locked in a kind of one place the whole time. Um, so I learned a lot about how you deal with stress and anxiety, and how you then uh, decompartmentalize it all into different areas, because I used to get real bad fog during COVID. Kind of you'd have these different challenges, especially being in travel, but you weren't able to see through them because everything's kind of morphing into one problem. So I'm really good at separating problems out in my own mind now, and then being able to unbox them and focus on the one thing at the one time. Um, I know that's not easy to do, and I've gone through a lot of training to be able to do it. But I'd say for me, I walk, I do something called Reiki, my spiritual side with my chakras all been aligned. I do that once a month, and I come out and I feel like I'm floating on air. Really great, really great. And then my daughter, yeah, it's kind of my daughter, my family, my wife. You know, my wife's really not hard on me, so that's the wrong word. Is really kind of strict on you leave the stress at the door. Okay, you come out of your office, you're now family guy, you're not businessman. And I really struggled with that when I first became a father, but just the ability to walk out of a stressful situation and then be playing with a 2-year-old who then throws up on you, and you're there going, actually, what I was worried about didn't actually matter at all. This is what matters. It's good. It's really good to understand that. Well, what actually matters in life? Your job doesn't matter. You know, your people matter. Your tribe matter, and it's kind of just reflected and understanding that.
Okay. One word to describe your career so far.
Chaotic. um, uh, Chaotic and incredible.
Good. Good.
Uh, why chaotic? It is chaotic. I paint it that at times it's a walk in the park. It's by all means not. Um, you know, the chaos of the travel industry the last 3 years, 4 years has just been horrendous, affected more than any other industry in the world. We shouldn't have survived. We did. Chaotic on my approach to it, but incredible. You know, had I thought when I was 18 that I'd be sat in the position I am today? Not at all. Not at all. Beyond my wildest dreams. Um, but I know I'm not finished yet. And I know now my belief in myself and what I've learned and my secrets, how far I can now go. There's no stopping me now because I've understood it.
Yeah. You've kind of succeeded on your own. You had your mentor before. Now you've had, and you've got that confidence now. And it
Yeah.
does take a long time, doesn't it, to get that confidence in yourself. And no, fair play to you. And what is the main trait you would look for in a teammate at work?
The main trait. Um, Someone who's authentic. So you work with a lot of people that you think you know, or you do a lot for because you think they'll do the same for you. They won't. They won't. It's You learn very quickly in your work life that the people, you know, I'm not saying everyone, but you'll meet people that you think are the same as your friends or the same as your family. They're not. They're your work colleague. You may go out and have a drink with them on a staff night out and have a really great time and think, oh yeah, they're just like my mate. They're not. Your friends are there. Your real friends in life are there because they love you. People you work with, you may get on with them. They may be great people, but they're not there for you. They're there for themselves. And that authenticity of people is so important in the workplace because you know you spend more time with people that you work with than your friends and family. And if people aren't authentic towards you, whether their views or whether they talk behind your back, all this stuff, that's been the most important thing for me. I was lucky working overseas and living with people that you work with. You know, for 9 years, I lived with the people that I work with. So I got to know them on a different level than the work level, and you get to see through people and their characteristics. And for me, it was always that authenticity in people, and you find it in people. And I can still see it now with everyone I've worked with ever since. I've been able to tell straight away if someone's been authentic, or whether they're just, because you can play the game if they're fake. But that authenticity is what I've always been able to highlight because of living and working with people for so many years and understanding the traits. So that's the most important thing to me.
I think that works well. I think previous person that we spoke to, I think, was talking about being themselves. I think maybe one of the tips was to be them, to be
Yeah.
authentic. So it goes hand in hand with that, because if you're not yourself and you're trying to be somebody else, it's so hard to keep up. And it's
No,
not going to succeed in the long run. It's not good for you, and it's not good for the employer, and it's not good for your teammates if you're trying to be something that you're not. So
yeah.
yeah, authenticity is massively important for both the employer and the employee.
But no one will ever tell you that when you go for a job interview or any of it, because people always go, I have to be my best self. No,
Yeah.
because you're then being your fake self. You're not being you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when I was going for interviews, I was going for interviews and kind of, it was like, well, I'm not going to get the job because I don't have the grades, I don't have the qualifications. I've not applied for a job since 2009. Um, every job I've had has been approached to me,
Mm-hmm.
which just because I've just been me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've never been anyone different, and I know what my limit is on the type of corporations I can work within, because I have a boundary that you know wouldn't be wouldn't be accepted in some big firms. They would go, you don't have a filter. You say what you think. That doesn't fit with who we are as a business.
You don't play the game necessarily in some
No,
firms.
I don't. I've got something I love. I've got something I'm passionate about, and I'll drive everything forwards for that. But that has its limits. But I can walk out of work every day saying everybody that I've encountered today and engaged with knows exactly how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
No one goes home thinking, oh, am I in trouble with the boss? Or no one goes to bed on a Sunday night thinking, is he going to say something? Because I've been there myself, man. I've felt rock bottom. Um, I felt like I've not been good enough. So, for me as a person now, everyone I want to speak to, I want them to know they're good enough, as long as they're just themselves. Because if you try and raise their expectation and then can't deliver, people will just go, they're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, it's that authenticity is just so, so important.
Yeah, yeah. I think someone said that to me the other day, and I'm not sure it was a backhanded compliment, but they said, "Oh, yeah, I could work for you, Dan, because I think I know where I stand with you, because you're always saying what you think." And
Yeah.
hopefully, it's fine to disagree with people, as long as you're respectful and you
Yeah.
just, that this is what I'm thinking and why. What everybody else thinks, that's fine. I'm just, putting my and this is why, and then that's fine as long as you respect it.
100%.
And, yeah. Last question then.
Go then.
Interview tips. So there's lots of people out there going into interview maybe tomorrow and what have you. What is the big tip that you give them?
Prepare, like, number one, only apply for a job that you really want. Don't just scatter approach everyone, because the problem is when you scatter approach, someone will call you for an interview and the potential of actually not understanding the job remit because you've applied for all these other jobs is massive. So the preparation first, apply for jobs that you know are going to help grow you personally. Don't be scared if you don't feel you can do the job. You can learn how to do the job once you've got yourself across the line. But that preparation factor and every, not so much of a job interview, because I've only had one. Every sales meeting I've always gone into, I've taken a question that someone once told me that they ask in every interview, and that was, is there anything today stopping you from employing me within the job? Now, I always thought it was quite ballsy. But it gives the interviewer the opportunity to give you feedback there and then. And then by them giving you the feedback, you have an opportunity of kind of number one, it's a good question to ask from because the interviewer's on a back foot. You get the feedback and then you answer the feedback for them.
Yeah.
Rather than then just writing you a cold letter 2 weeks later saying it was really great to meet you, but you haven't got the job. I do with every single sales meeting I ever have.
Yeah, it's a great idea because it gives you an opportunity there and then to answer their doubts that they might have, and just be quite clear, because there's many times I've probably done it myself, or we'll put a proposal out there and we didn't get it, and I'm thinking, why did we not get it? And we send it a sort of feedback, thanks for letting me know. Was there any particular reason? And the response is always a little bit vague, and or the response could have been, well, if you told me that at the time, I could have answered that, kind of thing. So it's simple, but it's a very effective tip. So that's it.
I actually asked it on a first date once. I took a girl on a date. I didn't like the response, so I didn't push it. I didn't give her any feedback. I just took it on the chin.
Olly, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, there's so much to take away from that. I really appreciate your time, and we'll put this out there for everybody to see, and hopefully we'll stay in touch and see where your career takes you next.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much, and I'm going to go see my daughter now. So thank you.
You should. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, Olly.
Take care, Daniel. Bye bye now.